Welcome back, everybody. What's up? It's Chris Angell and Aaron Hendon coming back at you
What's
with another
up?
episode of The Mindful CEO. Not just any CEO,
No,
the Mindful CEO.
I think it's the Mindful MFCO.
Yes, namaste.
Namaste, mindful motherfuckers.
Okay, so we were talking before we hit record just about this is really your topic, Aaron, but
Oh, blame me.
tracking, or I don't know if you'd use the word tracking, but how would you?
Yeah, we were so the last episode brought up that tension between mindful and CEO, and we've been grappling with, and I've been grappling with engaging in the difference between intentionality and striving.
Mm-hmm.
How do you practice non-striving but be intentional?
Right.
And
I really
because
like when you say direction but no destination. Like,
yeah, direction but no destination, but direction but no so on it, the old self-expression leadership program distinction: committed but unattached.
Yeah.
When you're committed versus attached, those are radically different spaces. And I think I could just be that simple, is that it's an ontological shift in your orientation from being attached to a specific outcome at a specific time at a specific date, and the way it looks is a specific way, versus committed to forwarding the ball in a direction that does in fact have a goal, and we're just going to keep getting closer. And if we get there, great. If not, wins or lessons. No, there's no failure. There's just a win or a lesson, and that's all we get. So in that, if that were a conversational domain of, where we were looking as mindful CEOs, I think there's the tension between mindful, non-striving, direction, goalless, open, beginner's mind, that world of mindful CEO.
Yeah.
Someone's got to get paid. Right. There's going to be, be results. There's got to be results happening on the court, in life, in some form.
Yeah.
And that tension between the two, and I was sort of enjoying the word tension, but tension may not be the right word. If that's a conversational domain, let's just say that's a domain. One of the things that shows up in that world is tracking individuals' performance, but like how close are you? It's funny to have a direction but not a destination. Tracking then becomes meaningless in that, because what do you track? Like, there's got to be a destination you're going for. In my business, it's 3 closed deals every month, or whatever it is, right?
Right.
That's a destination. I mean, that just is. And tracking the various things along the way there. I just wanted to engage in that. And first of all, before I get any deeper, you looks like you have something to say.
Well, I was just going to add too, I think that there's a lot of, myself included, there's a lot of people who the minute you bring up tracking, the minute it stops feeling like a self-expression. Like, I can't tell you how many people, when I was in a leadership position, to try to move the ball down the field to a destination. And so I was accountable to hit a number. So I was trickling that down to the people who were producing numbers to hit numbers. And then you have this whole entire culture of avoiding responsibility, distracting ourselves, getting ready to get ready. Like, it was the whole thing about, not doing the work of it.
Yeah. Good. I mean, I get that all the time in the programs I lead, for sure. That whole resistance to being measured, which is interesting, Chris. So if we go back, a lot comes up in that for me. So first of all, there's a lot that's familiar.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Like that whole world of don't measure me, which is so interesting, Chris, because this is it's all a subtle shift in the context, or maybe not subtle, but it's definitely a shift in the context, because, and I think we talked about this last week, that if you don't have a score, you don't have a game.
Mm, mm.
Did we talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah. You brought it up. We didn't go super long into it, but you brought it up.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have a score, you don't have a game. You just got playing.
Mhm. Yeah.
And playing is valuable. Playing for sure is of value. And there's domains that are purely creative where it would purely creative, including physics and
Yeah.
quantum physics and obviously the arts, but where seeing what shows up is the end.
Right. Play to see what shows up. That
Yeah, is the end. And
good.
then there's games.
Right.
And games have scores.
Yeah.
I mean, they just do. That's a constitutive element of a game, is that you say getting something that isn't to happen, isn't right now, to happen now is more important than whatever's happening now, right? Ball in the end zone, which isn't right now, ball's on the 20-yard line. Ball in the end zone is more important. And then you put all kinds of rules on it. It has to happen in this period of time, right? And here's the way that it can happen. You know, here's the sidelines, right? 4 downs, right? Like it has rules to it. And ultimately, it has a score to say whether you won or you lost.
Yeah.
And without the score, it's literally practice. It's what you call practice.
Yeah.
Right. So the score is, so the score is critical. And I don't think you would find many professionals. Sports metaphors work for anything having to do with games, obviously.
Sure.
But you wouldn't find any professionals that resent being measured.
I would say more.
Yeah, I don't think you find a bunch of professional athletes that are hung up in the getting ready to get ready.
Okay.
You know, that are hung up in don't measure me. What are you measuring my strikeouts for? Why would you do that? I'm just playing a game, man. Leave me alone. I'm trying to be self-expressed here.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Right. You just don't. Professionals are measure everything about me so that I can tweak this action 1% and get that much better.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Down the road. I mean, they're hungry to be measured. And I think there's a relationship to it that's a contextual shift. I mean, you declare yourself a professional, that's the CEO part. And you know, you're a demand to be measured.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me.
And then there's the phenomenon of, you know, then it's a discipline. It's funny because then in that domain, when you're a professional, you hear this all the time. I mean, I love sports, so I hear this all the time. I hear coaches talk about it all the time. Players talk about it all the time. You know, their attention is on letting go, relaxing, playing the game. They got to keep going. It's a game. Have fun, right? Like, you know, you can tell when a baseball player is struggling, they try too hard, and they constantly talk about, you know, they just let go and started playing like they did when they were a kid, and they just were naturally good at it, and they just had all that. They got their attention off the scoreboard. In other words, they stopped looking at the scoreboard, and so there's an so there's, I don't know, first of all, I got a lot more I could keep rambling about this because I'm sorting something out for myself about it.
Yeah. It's good though.
Yeah. What do you hear?
Well, I really like that. I hadn't thought about that because I was going to say I resent being measured. But if I think about playing golf, I played the most rounds of golf this past season than I have ever in a year of my life, except for high school, college probably. But I'm geeked out on my stats. When I'm done with a round, I'm looking at how many putts did I have, how many greens in regulation. I need to know my yardages. So I'm constantly looking at like, what are my stock yardages on my different clubs? There's a thing called Arcos that you can, these little pegs you put in the end of your golf club, and it'll start to, it's an app, it's technology. It'll tell you what your yardages are. So you can start to get measured. I'm a demand to be measured because I want to lower my score. I want to get down to a scratch golfer, and I'm hot on that pursuit. I'm like, let's go. I'm interested. I'm thinking now, like, what kind of shoes do I need to buy? Should I get barefoot shoes in the winter so I can, have stronger feet? Like, there's stupid stuff that you're starting to go, like all the ways I can improve my score. But when it comes to business, I resent that. It's interesting to me.
That's good. All right. Well, so this is that dynamic of it being one thing you're willing to be resentful about and one thing you're geeked out about. First of all,
Yeah.
would be, and I totally get it. I don't, and I, first of all, what's the nature of the resentment? What's the nature of the geek outness?
The nature of the resentment is, don't tell me to do something I don't want to do. Right. I think it comes down to like, a certain handful of things that feel like the obvious answer. You need to make more calls. You need to prospect. You're going to have to beat the streets. You're going to have to hustle and grind. And I'm like, don't tell me to do that. I'm not going to do that. So I'm already a no.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I mean, and you're already a no to what you already expect.
Yeah.
The answer to be, but this is good, Chris, because this is, I mean, this is really typical of the agents I train,
Yeah.
And of myself. I mean, but it's interesting. There's no, I don't know how to say it. There's no demand to discover something outside of those typical ways that you're not willing to do it. It's not like, fuck it, I'm not doing that. I'm not hustling, grinding. And here's what I am going to do. And I am a demand to be measured in that so that I know if that works or not.
Yeah.
Right. It's getting things down to a measurable, it is that idea between execution and ideation, right? Execution.
Yeah.
Man's measurement.
Sure.
Ideation does not. Right. And and then it comes with failure and it comes with correction and it comes with, growth outside of your comfort zone. All those things happen. I'm interested though, for you to keep looking at why are you, what's the world in which you get excited about getting measured in golf?
Yeah.
Which I'm going to take a stab, could not impact the quality of your life less. I mean, other than the fact that it brings happiness and joy. So from that perspective, but in terms of any other component, and I'm not diminishing the importance of happiness and joy and doing the thing you love, but
yeah, it is interesting.
But there's no, and that's, you could say, an open heart and
I think so a couple things in there that are showing up for me. One is, it occurs to me that I didn't invent golf. Golf was not my self-expression. Somebody put a golf club in my hand in 6th grade. I hit the ball and I was like, that was awesome. Let's do that again. And I just kind of got hooked. I really enjoyed a predetermined thing I could play. I didn't have to use my creative juices to make the game. I just got to play the game. And then all my creative energy could go into, how do I get better at this thing that's already predetermined, predefined? In my work, so much of the way I approach my work is it feels like a calling. It feels like a cathedral. It feels like something that is a self-expression for me. And it's not predefined. And so me reading someone else's book about how they built a cathedral isn't the same thing as, in other words, their predefined game for how to win at the game of business isn't my self-expression. That was their self-expression. So I can find some things in their game that seem interesting to me, but then a lot of things that don't. And so I come back and it doesn't feel good. I'm like, I don't like that. That doesn't feel good. So I guess I'm just saying, like, in golf, it's predefined. I'm just showing up in ping pong, tennis, doesn't matter. It's like, it's already there. Just play it. In my work, it's a self-expression. So, and it's undefined, and I'm having to find the cathedral in it.
Okay. Well, when you say it that way, it's a little surprising that you're the joy and the open-heartedness goes for the one towards the side that where there's already,
It is interesting.
right. And then the one you are inventing from scratch, you're like, don't fucking measure me on that. That's a
That
little
is interesting. Yeah.
That's wild, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
it's
well,
true.
I totally get it. I get it from every level. I get it
Yeah.
from my own personal experience. But
Yeah.
what's that about?
Mm.
I mean, how do you,
Yeah.
on one hand, justify being disinterested in the future you're creating at the same level at which you're completely creating a massive interest in a future you had nothing to do with?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have to sit with that one for a while. That is really interesting. That is a great conundrum that's
Yeah.
come up in this conversation. That's really interesting.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
that looks like
I
our
feel
hour's up,
so
Chris. We'll have to bill you for the next. I mean, this is like therapy, right?
I, I feel so committed to, so interested in, so in love with my vision of what I want to create in the world. And I don't want you to measure that. I don't want to measure that.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, that's all right. So, all right. So I'll just talk about me for a minute.
Okay,
And
okay.
let you just percolate in how,
See if something
what,
breaks
yeah,
loose.
we're always surprised when we encounter our own inauthenticity. Like we always think we're totally straight and normal and, like everything is logical to us, but that has no logic to it at all. Right. That's like a really counterproductive way of operating. And you don't, doesn't live for you like, oh, I'm being really counterproductive here. Or even if it does, it doesn't live enough counterproductive that you would do anything about it. It's justifiable in some way. And I think all that's interesting. So for me, I definitely, we were talking about real estate and, agents on my team and the degree to which I'm flat footed that 20 conversations a day for a real estate agent works. I mean, you did 20 conversations a day, 5 days a week for 3 months, and you just sat from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. if you had to, and you talked to 20 people you didn't know about real estate. Pick up a phone book and do that, and you do that every day, and you do it till you talk to 20 people. I just have zero doubt that your business, that you wind up doing 20, 30 deals. There's just, I don't know, Chris, you've had as much experience in this, I think more, maybe even more than I do. That's a workable structure, right?
Yeah.
And but I'm not gonna effing do that. So I hear you, right? Like I'm not gonna do that. Which is fine on one hand. Like, okay, that particular activity of sitting and dialing for 8 hours a day is not, I mean, I did that for many years, right? And I'm just not going to do it again. And there's a lot of things that I don't do again because I'm older and unwilling to do those things, right?
Yeah.
Like stay up till 11. But there's that resistance to being measured is there's certainly an element of it like I don't want you to tell me to do something I don't want to do. Something that works. This is what I also heard in what you were saying. I think this resonates. I'm not willing to do what you think it's going to take. What I know it'll take. I know that those things that the structure of business is a game that was invented before you. It's not like you're the first person to start, the funnel
20
model.
conversations will work. 20 conversations will work.
I know 20, and I'm not willing to do that. Right. I'm not willing to do that. So what am I willing to do? And what results? And first of all, what are the predictable results out of that? And then what are the results that I'm committed to? And I'm going to find a way to produce those results. Without, in your case, what without selling my soul. I don't think doing cold calls is selling your soul. I don't. Right.
Well, but something just opened up for me in that, which was, when my friend put a golf club in my hand at 6th grade and I hit the ball, I was like, damn, that was awesome. I really liked it. That was fun. I want to do it again. I don't have that experience when I think, oh, I'm going to pick up a phone and call somebody, get rejected, and be like, oh, I want to do that again. There was a
No.
condition that invited me into the game of golf compared to the condition of
Yeah,
calling
that's
people is not inviting me.
yeah,
It's
okay,
not
but
fun.
that's okay,
Well,
fine.
if fun and
Except,
happiness is
but
you've
look,
been
you should see me hit a golf ball. I am not fucking doing that. I'm just terrible. I shoot a 120, and
yeah.
it's hard, and it's not, and I fail as much at golf as I do at cold calling. Really, like the number of rejections I get with the club
Right.
is easily as much as cold
But
calling
you don't
rejections.
like playing golf, that sounds like. Or
I
do
think
you?
I don't like playing golf because I'm not good at it. I think if I
That's my
was,
point. That's my point. Is the thing that is the thing that has me interested in measuring
is that you're already good at it and you just want to get better.
is that it was fun. Not that I wasn't good at it to begin with, but it was fun. So I wanted to do it more. And calling people is not fun. And so I already don't want to do it more. But now you or whoever my higher my demanding self is saying you need to do more. And I'm like, I don't want to do more because it wasn't fun. To your point lately about happiness
Yeah.
and I think there's some mindfulness stuff here about play and playfulness and how do you if you could this is why I love finding strengths. The whole Albert Einstein, if you judge a man, if you judge a fish
Yeah.
by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life thinking that it's stupid. Like when you can find the things that are fun for you and build that into the business, then you would be more likely to play the game of it and measure it because you enjoy it. I enjoy podcasts. I enjoy speaking. I enjoy having coffee with deep conversations with people. I like those things. If I could build that into my business and the things I measure, then that would be a better thing than just saying put sheer will and determination into picking up an auto dialer and calling people because that's going to get it done.
Right. Right. Okay, good. So then okay, so
That was just about fun, by the way.
I
Fun
get
stuff.
it, but there's a connection there, Chris,
Yeah.
because I get it. Like I think events are fun. And so my opportunity to talk to new people
Yeah.
is really inside events. I'm thinking now the conversation I had with Michael Mayer about
Great interview, by the way.
thanks. Oh, and then I realized he knows Hal Elrond and he knows Michael Reese, and I can get, connections, baby.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, just, so events.
Yeah.
Friends getting, but at the same time, those still come down to conversations.
Sure.
And I think there's this fun trap, a trap of fun. Like what parts are fun? I mean, it's a little bit like I got married because I was in love. Love is completely insufficient to manage a marriage through the agreement.
Yeah.
Till death do us part. That love is not a feeling, but it's got to be a commitment that you have to generate love, to regenerate it when you notice it's missing. And I think fun is like that. Fun is, it shows up often by itself.
Yeah.
But if you're dependent on the experience of it showing up when it shows up for you to excel, who practice guitar enough to get great? I mean, anything like that is unlikely to show up as fun for its duration for you to get excellent at it. What do you think? I don't know.
Well, I hear the same thing in there. Like you can measure how many hours you're playing guitar and do your scales, and that would be fine if you liked that thing. But the minute you say, how are you measuring your relationship with your wife or your spouse? It feels, I don't know, if it doesn't feel authentic. It feel like I'm going to measure how many times I said I love you today, or I'm going to measure how many times I did an act of service, or I'm going to, it's like,
okay, fine. But forget about measuring for a second. I don't know that there's a significant measure in
But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about tracking things, and this thing about like the measurement
But you
towards
do
a
measure
goal.
your marriage. Hang on, you measure your marriage in years married.
I mean,
But you do, that's a measure of marriage. And then but I don't know that there's a measure for fun. But my point is, you were saying, I want to be measured in golf because it's fun.
yeah.
Okay. And I'm suggesting that if you're relying on fun to last,
Yeah.
I mean, and there's got to be, it's like my doing events is fun, but at the same time, there's aspects of it that are a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I think if you focus on it's got to be fun and always fun and all parts of it, I don't know. There's a trap. I don't know. Maybe I'm just,
Yeah.
echoing my dad. So I can't,
Yeah.
this is definitely a therapeutic episode.
There's something in here though about it's the same thing. It's saying like, my vision, and I care so deeply about my vision, but I'm unwilling to find measures for it because I feel like that diminishes the something of it. Right. Same thing with marriage. Like, I'm like, not going to measure how many dates I took my wife on, because that's not where the magic is. The magic isn't in how many. And the minute it becomes about chipping stone, taking my wife on a date is about chipping stone, it overshadows the heart behind why I'm doing it.
Okay, so if we're going to go back to that original conversation, okay, the sidebar regarding golf and fun. Well, I think there's a world in there. They are connected, but there's a world inside that thing about it's got to be fun. There's a separate conversation called there's things that are unmeasurable. Your love for your wife, the quality of your marriage, right, is unmeasurable. And I don't like that as an example because there's no demand to measure that. No one's asking you to measure that. There's no use in measuring that. But in your vision, if your vision is out to be fulfilled in reality, I mean, look, even when you met Jenny, there was a commitment to then get married. That was like an expression of that thing. So just take marriage out of it for a minute, because there is no demand to measure your marriage. Okay. No one's asking you to. It's not important to. It doesn't work as a metaphor just because doesn't match your vision of your business. Does in fact have some aspect of it that is out to be fulfilled in the world, does it not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, million members.
A million members. Well, right there you have, that's a measure.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you're tracking how close you are to that.
Yeah.
Or you're not. And if you resent being tracked how close you are to that, it's unlikely you're going to get closer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe. I don't know. This is the part where surrender is such an X factor, because if I say, like, if I channel Abraham for a second and I'm just saying, like, look, if I can hold what's in my vortex, a million members are in my vortex, and I can hold and I can feel all the feels of how great it feels that is growing. I don't need to do anything.
Okay.
I don't need to do anything.
That's okay. Okay, good. So maybe
this is the challenge of surrender, because it's a mind screw. Because for years I was using anger to cause myself to show up, and now I'm trying to trust the whole thing of surrender that says, is it really true that if I stay in a good feeling space and this non-striving thing, while I'm having conversations, you and I are recording podcasts, I have 10 partners in communities, there are communities that have launched, things are in motion, and I'm taking inspired action, but I'm not measuring it. I mean, I am, but I'm not. The measure is an after the fact, not in order to.
Right. Good. Well, I think that's everything that you need. I think that's everything about measure. That's the thing about measure that works, is that the measure is, first of all, invented.
Yeah.
It's not the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. It's, you created it to see, you've got to take ownership of it. Okay. Now I know you didn't invent golf, but you clearly own the way that's measured.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't argue with,
Nope.
that's a stroke. That is what that is. That's what a stroke is. I don't,
Right.
I'm
It's
out of
half a
bounds.
stroke.
I'm taking an extra stroke by moving
Exactly.
it in. I'm not like, well, that doesn't really count. Right.
Yeah.
You
Right.
own that measurement. And it's an after the fact. The point of it isn't, your access to improvement isn't focusing on the measure.
Mm-hmm.
Your access to improvement is focusing on your swing.
Mm-hmm.
And the measure, the ball in the hole, measures how good you are and reliable you are at having the same swing every time, or having the correct swing every time. The measure, ball in the cup, is a measure of your effectiveness at swinging the club.
Yeah.
You've got to have your focus on. So when they say keep your eye on the ball isn't get the ball in the cup. The ball in this case is literally the golf ball, and how hard and where and how you move your body and how you hit it.
Yeah.
But that you're measuring that. But the point is, it's fun to move your body in the exact right way every time.
Yeah.
Right. If you can learn to control your body to move it in the exact right way every single time, that's fun for you.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just shitty at that. And I'm not going to get better at that because it's not fun for me. But that moving, but that the point isn't the measure. The point is the playing. And you measure to see how much better you are at playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So but that's because you don't have your focus on the measure. It's
So
not that you're. So my point is, the measure is an after the fact. The measure is the wake of the boat moving forward. You look behind you to see, how did I do?
Yeah.
You don't look ahead and go, I got to get that over there. You practice playing the game in the moment, and then you look behind you and you say, did those conversations I just had make the difference?
So what it was showing up for me is that in business, we don't often have the ownership of what it is we want to play. It's much more open-ended about how are you going to play this game called business. In golf, there's a way to play it. In business, there are a lot of ways.
There's a way to score it.
Okay, well, I mean, but for the most part, you're going to have a club. You're going to put a tee on a ball on a tee. You're going to hit it. But you're not like pool cueing it, and you're not. Right. There's not a lot of ways to do it. It's a club. It's a ball. It's a Right. In business, there's prospecting, there's marketing, there's networking, there's there's hustle, there's surrender. Like, there's so many ways you could do this. And I think, to your point earlier, like, I'm owning how I'm relating to golf. I'm owning that. But so much of my journey in business was trying to find what I could own in business to give me the result. Mm-hmm. And I tried different stuff and I didn't like it. I felt like I was shooting 120 in golf when I was trying to do pop buys. I felt like the way I was trying to play the game of business, I sucked. I hated it. And I couldn't find something that felt good. And I think a lot of people because there's more at stake in business than in golf. In other words, my livelihood, my ability to make money and income, that's the baseline. If I can't make that, I don't have the luxury to find the way I want to play this game. So I'm put into things that other people tell me to do, and I'll do them or I won't, depending on my threshold for, the work. But I think at least for me, what I am looking for, and I have found some pieces and I haven't found all the pieces of the game I want to play to get to 1 million members, is how do I want to play this game? And if I could find that, I might be really excited to track it. I might be really excited to do all.
But how would you even know you were getting? This is the thing that doesn't make any sense to me, is that you can't say, how am I going to get there without measuring you're getting there?
Well, I think I do measure. I just don't want you to measure. Like I'll measure when I want to measure and I won't measure when I don't want to measure. There's
I
like
think, I don't think that's, I mean, yes, I think that's true, but I think it would be worthwhile looking at what you measure and what you don't. Because I don't think what you don't measure, I just think
we can make this specific because I think keeping it general is confusing. Like if I think, okay, there was a time when I was running Facebook ads and I thought that was the next thing for me. I'm like, Facebook ads, this is it. Facebook ads is all about measuring, what's my cost per click? What's my return on ad spend? All the things. And the challenge was, for me, I wasn't getting the result. And I felt the skill set of it felt beyond me. I wasn't willing to go all in on A/B testing and really figuring out how it overwhelmed me. And I'm like, I'm not going to play that. I'm not playing that. I tried it. I measured it. I'm not going to do that. I think it's requiring more than I'm willing to give. So I moved on. I thought podcasting is going to be the thing because I can reach more people. So I spent a ton of years in podcasting, and wasn't for a lack of content, wasn't for a lack of posting it in different platforms, wasn't for a lack of, it was good content, it was good conversation, but I couldn't figure out how to move that needle. So I was like, well, that didn't move the ball down the field. It did and it didn't, right? So we're saying we're measuring, like there's a lot of relationships I have now.
But you
because
clearly measured that. That's how you knew that was working or not working. You had measures for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. But I think the thing, maybe what's not being said here is like the thing I'm looking for is the thing that, like in golf, if I say, I know I can hit my driver 300 yards, there is a cause and effect. I hit the ball, it goes 300 yards. In business, I keep looking for what's the thing that's going to get me to 1 million members? Like, how do I what's the game I need to play to get me to 1 million members? And I've tried a lot of things, and there's some things I'm not willing to do. So I'm looking for what are my other options.
Right. But all of those things, those other options, even surrender, this is the thing we're going to get back to, intention versus forcing an outcome.
Yeah.
Right. Commitment versus non-attached. Even those things like surrender, you're measuring the effectiveness of surrender.
I think that's true. I don't have a spreadsheet, but I'm definitely observing and watching for what's showing.
You know how many more groups you start every month. How many?
You can't see this. My virtual background's blocking it out, but I'm playing. Yes, I'm playing with all the ways I can affect my energy in a day, right? To where I'm drinking 3 bottles of water a day, and I'm rampaging on my walks. And these are all very intentional things I'm doing to move the needle of
biohacking. You're biohacking.
I'm biohacking to be in a vibration or frequency that would put me in alignment with the things I'm asking for.
You're vibe hacking.
Vibe hacking. There you go. I like it. Yeah, that's
vibro hacking.
Vibe hacking.
Biohacking. Vibro hacking. Yeah. So, I mean, I do. So I think the thing about not wanting to be measured is, I think the reaction, right? So the one thing that I did think of, Chris, when you were talking about that whole thing about surrender and like that is, did we talk about the trains, the engines on the trains?
Maybe
I was listening to someone talk about the law of attraction, and then they were like, look, there's already a locomotive headed your way with everything you want. And it's heading to you. You wanted it. It's in your vortex. It's on its way. The only thing that's slowing it down is you have resistance, which is like an engine on the other side of the train pulling the other way. Okay. And it's slowing down the train coming to you. And if you could stop the resistance to getting what you want, you'd have it. Okay. The game isn't raise your vibration to get what you want. The name of the game is discover where you're inconsistent with where you're resisting what you want.
Yeah.
And I am unclear about the exact connection here, but the resistance to being measured is resistance. It's just resistance.
It's the train moving, pulling.
I'd be interested in examining if that's the case. if resistance to being measured isn't some form of engine on the other side of those million people pulling the other way, that there's just some, whatever you resist persists. There's some level of any kind of resistance is resistance, like I'm not going to fucking do that. It really is a form of resistance. And to keep getting sensitive to that makes sense because you do measure.
Yeah. I think what's occurring for me is like when I'm interested in it. So I'm always playing with what is my frequency? How am I changing that? I'm doing it all the time. And I don't know that I would think almost everybody's doing that all the time. Like everybody's interested in how they're doing things and we're trying stuff. We're humans. I think humans are that way, the bonobos and their ability to use tools or whatever it was like and we're always doing it's hardwired into us as a species is to play with the tools of things. But what's occurring to me is when someone else brings up the game of measurement in games, I
resist.
I immediately think you're going to tell me about a game that's not the game I'm playing and ask me to do something I'm not willing to do. So there's resistance coming into not you, Aaron, but the conversation of measurement when I'm building my cathedral, because I don't think you can see how I'm measuring or value how I'm measuring building my cathedral.
Good. Well, there's a lot of stuff in there too, Chris. There's a lot of stuff in there about, I think of Brene Brown, the man in the arena.
Yeah.
I am uninterested in people that are not in the arena talking to me about what's going on in the arena. And you're creating a specific arena that's distinct from Lamborghini leaners or whatever. Right. Yeah. So unless they're in your arena, they don't get to criticize you. Right. That's one thing. Right. So I don't know that that's resistance as much as it is just boundaries. Like, and then there's the Esther Hicks, like, look, you're going to think I'm crazy. I am crazy. But there's no resistance in that. Right. And I do think that is worth dissolving or worth examining at any rate, that sort of world that comes up regarding, they're going to tell me what to do versus, what kind of contribution do you have for me?
It's good. Yeah.
Right. Like that wouldn't be, that's a world to dissolve, right? That resistance to being measured is preemptive for you.
Yes, very much so.
Ready? It's a prophylactic resistance. I love using prophylactic as a word in the context of prohibiting something, because I have maturity issues. Anyway. Yeah. So I look, there's way more in this, but I think this is, we're going to put a pin in it here, right? Yeah. For stuff for me and you and everyone listening, the 5 people to really go to work on what do you resist automatically, defensively, about measurement? Where are you resisting measuring what you're up to? And what do you measure? What are you currently measuring? And even in an area of love, is it worth measuring? I'm not measuring that. Yeah. But I do measure how many dates I have with my wife, how many occasions I have. I manage that. I don't measure it so much as I make sure we have those times. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we should put a pin in it mostly because I have to go.
All right, man. Sounds good. That was awesome. If you guys want to learn more about the the Mindful CEO community, go to themindfulceo.com. Check us out there and follow the appropriate links. Awesome, Aaron.
Peace. Deuces.